Hey everyone, so I got back from Rose City Comic Con a couple days ago, and the reason why I haven't really been putting up a review as of late is because I'm trying to recuperate from the trip. It was a little bit exhausting trying to drive home after 3.5 hours, but eventually I got around to actually recording this review. Now, I will say, for the most part, there won't be a lot of spoilers, but for the Goldfinch review that I'm going to be starting pretty soon, there will be some spoilers here and there. So, yeah, and if you're looking for a particular movie, I will have the timestamps up on the screen right now for where they start, so you can skip ahead in the timeline to go watch them. And I can't wait to discuss more about Rose City Comic Con in the near future. Thanks, bye-bye. So the first movie I saw when I was in Portland at Rose City Comic Con was a film by the name of The Goldfinch. It's based off of a very prestigious book, I think. It won the Pulitzer Prize. And out of all the film trailers I saw this year, one of the ones I was hyped for was The Goldfinch. Not because I've read the book, which I haven't, but because of who was in it. So you got Ansel Elgort from Baby Driver, you have Nicole Kidman, Finn motherfucking Wolfhard. The concept in the trailer made me curious for a while. That is until I got to watch it in cinema recently that I started to switch my opinion. The poster for this movie has the tagline, "A Story of a Stolen Life." This works actually on two levels, one being my wasted time with the movie, and the other about the main character and his wasted years obsessing over a painting and not seeking therapy for his PTSD. Before I really dive into the negatives, which I have a ton of, the cinematography by Roger Deakins of Blade Runner 2049 fame makes this boring slog of a film a little bit bearable. Like seriously, the cinematography in this film is actually kind of beautiful at points, and even allows for the reflections in glass to look so crystal clear. Either that or it was CG'd onto the frames of the glasses and I just didn't notice. The acting, for the most part, was passable, I guess, except for one person in particular, Oaks Fegley, who played the young Theo, which honestly had the best performance. The issues, though, I have with the film are quite major, and before anyone can really jump down my throat on this one, yes, I have not read the book, so I am not reading this review as if it was a film that is adapted from a book. I am simply looking at this movie as a movie, okay? So, the issues I have with the film are actually quite major, and most of them are pertaining to the script. The biggest flaw with the film I found is the main character. At no point is he ever really challenged on his assumptions of reality. A lot of his angst involved in the monologues at the beginning and end could have helped with therapy. Nothing he does propels the plot forward. It is actually life that forces him forward, whether he likes it or not. The script for the film makes the lead character into a passive protagonist till the last half hour. This is how you bore an audience. Imagine Sherlock Holmes, instead of actively pursuing clues for a case that involves high stakes, he just waits for evidence to pop up at his front door because he has agoraphobia. At one point in the film, Theo is told something that changes his perspective, but it comes so late in the film is almost over by this point, mind you, that it ends up just being a footnote to an otherwise boring movie. Yes, the meaning of the film relayed to us at the end is good, but like other films, like Life itself from last year, a good theme isn't a substitute for poor character writing and not allowing the audience to care about what is happening. When we look at films like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse or Hereditary, both have themes and stories they want to get across. They're very focused on the themes of the story. They stick usually to one theme, and they fuse a lot of things such as interesting characterization and a sense of progression to the story. The themes don't even conflict with each other in The Goldfinch until the very end, and this forces the script to be thematically uneven, making the uplifting message at the end seem very disconnected from the rest of the film. The message being that while there is bad things that happen to us, we need to do introspection on ourselves and find the good things that came of the bad. If it wasn't for the explosion, there wouldn't be the connection Theo and a girl has. If it wasn't for Theo's dad taking him away from his foster parents, he would not have met a friend who would have ultimately solved most of his problems at the end of the film. But this comes so late in the game that it ended up not mattering. I just didn't care about it. But there is no narrative propulsion to this film. Almost nothing the main character does actually moves the plot forward, and everything happens because the book said it happened. It isn't properly set up, and the payoffs, like the one mentioned before, should hit hard, but because there is no setup, there is no payoff. The film has a lot of themes it's trying to balance, but it never really gives full attention to anything. It is trying to balance a lot of things like PTSD, the effects of trauma, death, object impermanence, but none of these ideas have any prominence in the film. It just feels like these themes are just footnotes to a boring slog of a film, just an afterthought. I feel like the best way to have adapted this book, which I hear is great and is a dense story with hundreds of pages, would have been to turn it into an Amazon Prime TV miniseries. I think it would have worked well, and it's already under Amazon's wheelhouse as Amazon Studios made this film. And speaking of things to not really care about, the namesake of this film refers to a 17th century painting and is the linchpin in the life of Theo, and this is the element that was sorely underdeveloped in my opinion. Anything that could have been interesting in the painting itself is tossed away. The film goes out of its way to say that the film's painting is important to Theo for some reason. Maybe it's a reminder of his mother's love for art that further influences him to pursue the finer things in life, but the film takes this interesting character part and tosses it out the window or doesn't even acknowledge it in favor of a mystery behind the painting. That isn't a bad thing at first, as long as the mystery is good. It starts off very promisingly as Theo is told after the explosion to take the goldfinch to quote-unquote protect it, but nothing comes of it. It's like the film isn't interested in the thematic weight that both of these options could have been interesting to view from. So throughout the film, the painting is just a wasted plot device that serves no purpose other than to sit in hidden spaces for Theo to hold tight to when he needs a therapy blanket. But Nick, don't you think you're being overly critical? This film is based on a Pulitzer Prize-winning book. People seem to think that because a film is adapted from something that won an award, that somehow means the film is actually good. Again, I haven't read the book, so I'm sure I am ignorant on the subject, but when you make a movie, I am basing my judgment on the filmmaking, scripting, directing, editing, etc., not whether or not it is based off a book that won awards. I believe a movie should stand on its own without having to read the source material. Like, yeah, not all of the elements of Lord of the Rings or the Harry Potter books were put into their films, but on their own they were great pieces of cinema, more especially with the Lord of the Rings trilogy than Harry Potter. There really isn't much else to say about this garbage fire other than the pacing is slow to the point where it feels like it's 3 hours long, and the film just doesn't want to end for 20 straight fucking minutes. It bored the hell out of me, and I probably won't be seeing it again, and the Goldfinch was very disappointing. The Goldfinch gets a D+. The next film on my list that I saw was The Peanut Butter Falcon. When it comes to films featuring people with disabilities, it is either hit or miss. It is either offensive as hell or a bit tasteful. The Peanut Butter Falcon actually is everything that they have told you and more. The film follows Zach, played fittingly by Zach Gottsagen, a person with Down syndrome who escapes from a nursing home to go out and find his favorite wrestler, the saltwater redneck. He comes across Tyler, played by Shia LaBeouf, who is running away from trouble, and together they make a journey to run away from their past and to get away from it all, while finding their hidden selves. This is one of the best films of the year. The film makes it obvious that the topic of the film is shedding the identity that people have built around you. Zach is a person with Down syndrome who acknowledges that people who call him offensive names such as the R word and insult him to death. He isn't ignorant to the fact that people look down upon people with Down syndrome. Even the most caring and thoughtful people, like his caregiver played by Dakota Johnson, thinks that Zach can't do certain things because of his identity. This is what is internalized in Zach as a character at the beginning, but it is with the help of Tyler that Zach begins to gain confidence in himself, and he transforms into his persona of, quote-unquote, the Peanut Butter Falcon. It helps that Gottsagen plays the character very well, and his character is well realized. People with Down syndrome are still people, and the film makes the case that we should care about them in the same way as any other person. Zach wants to improve himself. He has dreams and aspirations that anyone else could have. The whole journey between Zach and Tyler is shaky at first, but much like the hesitant Tyler, he and the audience begin to slowly develop a caring relationship with Zach. You care about both of these characters as time goes on, and both of the characters have great chemistry. And if it wasn't for the bond that both characters develop in the film could have been boring. I haven't seen Honey Boy yet, but I can say without a doubt that Shia LaBeouf gives a career best performance. He did such a great job with the character. He has a lot hidden and plays his hand when he needs to show his hand. He is caring and kind to people around him. There is something that happens to him in the film that got me really emotional. He recognizes that Zach has his issues, and Tyler says, "Fuck the people who put you down. If you have a dream, go after it, without letting the bullies and assheads of the world put you down, especially if you are made fun of for your capabilities." In this sense, this is what makes the movie so heartfelt and uplifting for me, and the film doesn't try to talk down to its audience or its characters. It takes the situation seriously and is supportive of the journey these characters take. The ending had me going as to one of the characters' fates, but it was a satisfying ending. In terms of issues I don't really have much other than Dakota Johnson's character. While she fits the themes of the film, I felt her turn around in the film was almost too quick, and I would have liked a little bit more struggle with it. But by the end, I just didn't care because the film was just so damn fun. Anyway, if you find a screening of this film, find it and watch it. It's one of the most uplifting films of the year. That is until A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, where I will be bawling throughout the entirety of the film. If you've already seen it, write whether or not you liked it, and if you haven't seen it, please find a screening. I'm going to give The Peanut Butter Falcon an A. And the last film I saw in Portland before leaving was The Farewell. In a year full of films with heart, there was one film that I was excited to see, and that is The Farewell. Written and directed by Lulu Wang, The Farewell follows Billy, played by Awkwafina, a Chinese-American immigrant who is informed that her grandmother Nai Nai is dying. So she and her family go to China to be with Nai Nai on what seems to be her last days alive. The only thing about this whole trip is that Billy's family has decided not to tell Nai Nai that she is dying. This conflicts with Awkwafina's sense that people should tell the ones they love that they are going to die and they're going to miss them. It's with this premise that the film immediately made me interested. It is such an interesting perspective on how we process grief and the fear of dying. I was surprised to find out that this is actually a practice that is real in China. And as the film progresses, the film makes the case that while it can seem morally irresponsible to not let people know that they are dying, it didn't seem to faze the people that were dying. In fact, the person that this film is based off of is still alive and well. It is an interesting philosophical quandary, however. Do we live better when we are ignorant to what fate has in store for our end? Or is it better to allow the people we love to come to terms with their mortality? To keep from Nai Nai suspecting something serious is going on, the family decides to actually shroud the event in secret in the guise of a wedding, which sets this huge happy overlay on top of such a huge melancholic undercurrent. Both the family as well as the audience knows that death is actually coming for Nai Nai at some point, but there's just something beautiful in the fact that she has a very big lack of knowledge on her own fate. There are several scenes where Nai Nai is just very happy to see all of her family after so long, especially Billy, who had lived in America for who knows how long, a decade and a half. There's a scene later in the film at the wedding where she seems to be having the most fun of her life, and when it was time for the family to head back to their homes, leaving Nai Nai felt so sad and happy at the same time. This is the kind of film that makes us more appreciative of the impact that our family members have had on us. The performances are spot on all around, with the best going to Shuzhen Zhao as Nai Nai, Awkwafina as Billy, who has the most to work with in terms of emotional complexity, and Diana Lin as Lu Yan, Billy's mother. There isn't a single thing that I thought didn't work. However, I will say that a lot of the movie is dinner scenes, and I guess that could really drag the film when there is so many, but the writing and family reunion infused comedy helps to make these repetitious scenes less repetitive. I think this is in the top 5 films of the year for me, and is one of the best films of the year. I'm going to give The Farewell an A+. Thank you so much for listening in to my triple feature review. If you have any thoughts about any of these films, feel free to comment down below whether or not you agree or disagree with my decisions. And in the meantime, I'll be working on my Rose City Comic Con vlog, and in the next couple days, you'll be getting a review of Carrie. So, there you go, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.